All right, everybody, we are live with the Combatcast. It's the man called Dave. It's Chevy, and let's talk about some fights. We got a banger of a pay-per-view this weekend I'm excited about. Before we get into all that, Chevy, why don't you tell people we got coming up after this?
All right, November 22nd, UFC Fight Night, Sarukian versus Hooker. That's an excellent, probably title contender or title shot eliminator for lightweight. That is 1 p.m. from Qatar, which we love these Middle East cards because here on the East Coast, we get to watch them in the afternoon and not stay up till 2 in the morning. And then November 29th is Thanksgiving weekend, so no UFC fights, but we'll be reviewing that Sarukian and Hooker card. I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about. And then December 6th, we'll be previewing UFC 223, Dvalishvili versus Yan 2, and that is live from the T-Mobile Center in Vegas.
All right, what's the date of that?
December 6th.
Yeah, somebody's got a birthday that day.
Okay.
So hopefully that's a good card. We are getting close to the end of the pay-per-view era here, and as we'll talk about soon, UFC gave us a good reason to watch pay-per-view still before the end, though. But before we get to the pay-per-view card, we did have a fight night, Bofian versus Brown. We could talk about the main event and co-main event. Is there any other fights you want to talk about from this show?
Yeah, Christian Leroy Duncan got a nice KO over Marcelo Tulio, and Muslim Salikov versus Uros Medic. Medic has 100% finish rate. He either gets finished or gets a finish in every single one of his fights. He got a first round finish over another great striker, Muslim Salikov. So he continued this trend on this card of begging for the bonus, which, all these fighters don't make enough money. So we don't need to get into that. We've talked about that ad nauseum, but Medic looked great. Very exciting fight, but let's get into co-main event. Don't understand how this was co-main event. Terrible. Matt Schnell versus Joseph Morales.
Yes, let's get into this one. Joseph Morales got a takedown really early, showed great pressure in the beginning. Ultimately, he slipped on a great guillotine choke. Kid has a phenomenal ground game. Those were my notes. I didn't think there was really much else to go on with this fight, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Morales got a first round sub. Schnell just isn't very good. He was the one that initiated the takedown on a superior grappler. He knew that he was a superior grappler when he went for that takedown, and he paid the price. So all these UFC fights and his fight IQ is still low. I don't really like to talk shit about the fighters too much unless it's John Jones and they're a trash human being, but I don't understand how Matt Schnell's still in the UFC when they're cutting like exciting fighters like Chris Barnett and stuff,
Right.
Except for Matt Schnell is a 125er, and I assume he makes, 3 buttons and a hot dog for his pay. So that's probably why they keep him around. Anyway, moving on to the main event here, Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. I did not get this one right.
Yeah, what's funny is like you look at Bonfim too. Again, much like Snell, I looked at this and I thought, this guy's got a great ground game. But he really showed off some great striking here, especially the leg kicks. I think I saw a stat or something in the first round of the 22 strikes he had landed. It was like 20 of them were leg kicks, something like that. So great leg kicks, but also I thought even little glimpses of when they got into clinch, Bonfim looked really super impressive. I thought coming out in the second round, Brown looked like he knew he lost that first round and he wanted to put some pressure on it. And I still thought Bonfim was a little, more crisp, but it was only a couple seconds. And then we're in the clinch again. Bonfim hits that knee and Brown goes out, and it looks like he wakes up almost immediately when he gets knocked down. But at this point, referee has already stopped the fight, and Brown is already protesting. So I thought it was an interesting stoppage in that sense because I don't blame him, but I also could see why Brown was frustrated, so it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Randy was definitely out on his way to the ground. You could see in the replays, like his eyes rolled back and everything. He went limp. And he might have come to before Bonfim followed up, but I don't blame the ref for stopping it. The ref did earlier. I think it was that Christian Leroy Duncan fight. He didn't get in there early enough after he knocked out Tulio, and Tulio took a bad shot, bad follow-up shot, and it was the same ref. So I wonder if, that was he realized he fucked up earlier, so he jumped in there a little quick. But I don't blame him. He thought Randy Brown was out because he was out. So he doesn't know he's going to come back as soon as he hits the ground. So
right.
It's a bummer for Randy Brown, but he was losing the fight anyway. Like you mentioned, those leg kicks. That's why he had to be so aggressive in the second one, because he couldn't take too many more of those. And he really had no answer and no way to defend them. So
no, both of them though showing that he's a really good, complete fighter. And I'll be curious to see his next fight.
Yeah.
Let's get to it, buddy. I know that card was what it was, but UFC 322 this weekend. Islam Makachev going up again in weight against Jack Della Madalena for the Welterweight Championship. Also, Weili Zhang going up in weight to take on Valentina Shevchenko. This is a fucking great card on paper. Obviously, you never know. Sometimes shit cards can turn into good, sometimes bad cards can turn into great, but this on paper, they gave us a lot of stuff to be intrigued about. For a guy who has I've already kind of put my foot out the pay-per-view door. This is almost like, ooh, you tempted me here,
Yeah, they're gonna get my money for this one for sure.
So,
prelim fights. Kyle Dawkins versus Gerald Meerschaert, a couple of great grapplers. Kyle Dawkins on X or whatever, or Twitter, whatever you're calling it these days. He said, "I'm gonna knock his block off." He put a tweet out like that. I responded to his tweet with I respect the idea, but no, you're absolutely gonna grapple. And he responded with a GIF that was a guy going, like, you got me. So yeah, I hope they don't strike. I hope that is a grappling match. It's a good grappling match. And then number 4, Aaron Blanchfield versus number 8, Tracy Cortez. They have fought before, and I think it was 2019 in Invicta, and Tracy got a split decision win. We talk about it on here a lot. I'm very high on Aaron Blanchfield. I think she's a future champion. But Tracy's tough, and that's a good fight. And then obviously Bo Nickel versus Rodolfo Vieira. Do you want to talk about this one at all? I'm sure you don't have all their.
Oh, I don't have stuff, but has potential to be a very intriguing matchup right here. I mean, like grappling wise.
I think potential, I don't want to be dramatic, but a crossroads fight maybe for Bo Nickel. Which direction his career is going to go? Is he going to just be another guy, or is he going to continue to be this highly touted prospect? So,
right.
Similar style wise to RDR, who obviously KO'd him, Rodolfo. Great jiu-jitsu guy. Probably not the best striking. Don't want to see any striking from these guys. I want to see Bo Nickel go out there and try to wrestle, get on top, and just ground and pound the guy. Probably don't go for submissions. You're probably not going to land him on multiple time world champion jiu-jitsu guy, but you can ground and pound him and just wrestle him, tire him out. And then if at the start of a round you can land some shots on him, then that's fine. But I want to see him wrestle. That's what he's great at.
It's interesting to see, though, like you said, crossroads fight. Like, if he doesn't win this fight, where his career would go next, because he's so young in the game, but he's already in the UFC, right? And this is the problem. And You almost wished it like maybe in situations like this, maybe guys could just get out of their contract and then try to go take a few regional fights somewhere else, or go to a Japan and try to fight for different organizations. And, maybe they could, maybe their management team could give them the fights that maybe would be better for their careers at this point to help them learn. But
yeah, he looked great like when he was on the regional scene, and he looked great on the Contender Series.
right.
So maybe it is just a little bit of a too far, too fast thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he has the skills. He's just, I don't think he's implementing the correct game plan. So maybe that's a coaching issue. Maybe, it is possible because MMA is different, that his wrestling just doesn't really translate to MMA. But I don't think that's the case. I think he just needs to figure it out. So,
and maybe it's just switching up, like going to a few different camps, like some fighters do too. Maybe go a little here, go a little there.
He has that camp that was it ATT like made a camp at his college, whatever it is, next to Penn State where he lives. Yeah. Like they made a whole camp for him there. So I can't see him going to another place.
No.
But maybe that might be best for him. It'd be shitty, but
just a mix, or get other people. I don't know, but it's got to be something you do to help evolve when you're this talented but still young in the game.
Right. Yeah. Need more evolution. Yeah. So
let's get to the main card.
Yeah, won't be the only crossroads fight on this card either. But let's get into. Oh my goodness, this card is so tasty. Beneil Dariush versus Benoit Saint-Denis.
Dariush, 23, 6-1, 5 KOs, 8 subs, 10 decisions. Performance of the night 4 times. Fight of the night once. He's tied Donald Cerrone and Charles Oliveira for second most wins in UFC lightweight division history. All right. Benoit Saint-Denis, performance of the night 3 times. Fight of the night 2 times. This guy is 15, 3-1, 4 KOs and 11 subs. So 100% finishing weight in his professional MMA career. He loves to bring it. He's talented. I think sometimes, a more complete fighter has shown that, at a high level can be trouble for Benoit. And I think you have one here in Beneil Dariush. That being said, BSD is so powerful, and he's really, a great night. He could catch Dariush. We've seen Dariush get caught before, so it's there. But if Dariush isn't going out, I'm going to say, based on what I've seen in the past with these two, Dariush is going to put it on him, and he's probably going to finish him in round 3. I'll go submission. Submission, Dariush, round 3.
Yeah, I agree. Either guy could KO each other, and Dariush has been knocked out, and he's very willing to engage in a straight up brawl, and so is BSD. So, but I think BSD will try to wrestle because he is mostly a grappler. But I'd favor Dariush on the ground, and getting him to the ground is a big problem. Like he defended a lot of takedowns against Gamrot, and Gamrot is a high caliber wrestler. So. I'm with you. I'm going to pick Dariush. I'm going to say TKO in round 3, though.
Okay. All right.
Moving on. Yeah. Another crossroads fight here. Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates.
All right. Oh. Leon Edwards. Okay. Did I not put down Carlos Prates here? What do I got here? Well, anyway, let's go with Leon Edwards. 22, 5-1, 7 KOs, 3 subs, 12 decisions. Former UFC welterweight champion, 2 successful title defenses, first Jamaican-born UFC champion in history, 1 of 3 undisputed UFC British champions, performance of the night 2 times, on a 2-fight losing streak, but lost that title and then lost to Sean Brady, I believe. I forgot to write down. And then I got Michael Morales listed. So somehow I forgot to put Carlos Prates' stats in here. Here's what you need to know about Carlos Prates. This guy's a killer. This guy's part of the Fighting Nerds camp. And this guy is pretty much undefeated in UFC, except for when he ran into a guy by the name of Ian Gary. All right. Ian Gary, super talented fighter, and Ian Gary is probably already, in that. Yeah, I want to. It's a stacked division, but you'll say top 5, right? So no shame in that loss. So judging by past performances, all right, and what we got to go on, I would go with Leon Edwards here because Leon Edwards has fought, more than just Ian Gary. He's been the champion. But like you said, crossroads fight, right? Leon doesn't have momentum now. He's coming off losing his title and losing the fight after that. There's 2 ways to react to that, and Carlos is talented enough to make him react a certain way, whether he wants to or not. So I wouldn't be shocked if Carlos could pull this off. I think if he does, he'll get a finish. But I'm going to go Edwards by decision. I figured he's going to lose the tools. He's going to do what he can to maybe drag this out to a decision too. And I don't know if he has his way, I don't know if it's going to be an exciting fight, but he's going to win this fight.
I think it's a very tough matchup for Leon. So it's good in the sense that it's not a grappler again because he's fought 2 grapplers in a row, and those are his 2 losses. But Carlos hits harder than Leon, and he relentlessly moves forward. Where Leon wants to stay at range and make a pretty kickboxing fight, Carlos is just going to march him down. So Leon at his best could definitely win, but I think those days are behind him already. So I'm going to pick Prates by TKO in round 2.
All
right, moving on. Sean Brady versus Michael Morales.
Yes. All right. Michael Morales here. This is the guy. 18-0, 13 KOs, 1 decisions. I'm sorry. 1 sub, 4 decisions, 6-0 in the UFC. 4 of those fights are finishes. So on a tear, 2 performances of the night. Sean Brady, 18-1, 3 KOs, 6 subs, 9 decisions, 3 performances of the night, 8-1 in the UFC, including a win off of the recent former champ, Leon Edwards. Sean Brady, again, I think we'll see how good Michael Morales is. He's undefeated. He's good. But Sean Brady, to me, is that next tier for him. So, much like I said the last fight, I think I'm going to go with Brady here. But I think this will be another decision. Although I think this one's going to be fireworks.
Yeah, Sean Brady, monster grappler. His jiu-jitsu top game is great. But his striking's not at a world-class level. He was TKO'd by Beneil, who isn't known for punching power. But it's also possible that was just a fluke. He flew all the way to Dubai. Beneil's not knocking anyone else out. So I'm not sold on that one. He's chinny or anything like that. So Morales, KO finisher. If he can land on Brady early before the takedown comes, I imagine he could get a KO, but I'm going to go with the grappler. I think Brady gets to him, drags him down, wears him out, possibly finishes him with some sort of submission, but I'm with you. I'm going to pick Brady by decision.
All right.
First title fight. Super fight. 2 super fights indeed. Valentina Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili.
All right. Zhang Weili is 26-3, 11 KOs, 8 subs, 7 decision. Women's strawweight champion 2 times. Her first reign, she had 4 successful title defenses. She had just had 1 title defense on her second reign. She is also a fight of the night 1 time, performance of the night 4 times. So Zhang Weili, monster. I thought for that weight class anyway, too. She was typically bigger than a lot of her strawweight opponents. But she is going up here in flyweight against arguably the GOAT. All right. I mean, I go Amanda Nunes too, but Valentina is right there. Valentina Shevchenko, 25-4-1, 8 KOs, 7 subs, 10 decisions. Women's flyweight champion 2 times. 8 successful title defenses, I believe, altogether. Most UFC wins in UFC women's flyweight history. Just a beast, just a legend. There's not really much more I can say. Zhang Weili, I could very well see pull this off, and because she's that talented. And I don't even know what the betting odds are, but to me, Valentina, who I thought, after even right before losing to Grasso, I thought, okay, this woman, maybe it's, she's been in a lot of battles. Maybe her career's coming to an end. She's totally turned things around to me. She looks, excellent in the last 2 fights. She looks super motivated. I'm not saying we won't win this fight, but I am saying until I see it, I'm going to go with Valentina. She's my girl. I'm going to say Valentina by decision because I'm really curious to see how Zhang Weili looks going up a weight class. She could look like even more of a monster.
Right.
And we're all talking afterwards like, oh, wow, she's super powerful and unstoppable. But until I see it, I'm going Valentina.
Yeah, I think the weight for Weili is a big question because remember that Valentina fought at 135. And I don't see Weili being able to compete up there. So I assume Valentina is just naturally bigger. With that being said, Weili's extremely well-rounded. The only hole I really see in her game is her striking defense. She does get hit. Obviously, Valentina can knock you out, but I personally think she's fallen off a bit the last couple of years. Yes, you talked about the Alexa Grasso 3 fights they had or whatever. One of those being a definitive win for her. But before that, she fought Talia Santos and she got a bullshit decision win that she should have lost. So, I don't think I think a lower level Valentina is still among the best in the world. But I also think that Weili is up there. So can she eat a shot from Valentina? I think we'll find out. But I'm just giving the edge to Weili. I'll say she gets a decision win. I expect a lot of wrestling. Cejudo's in her corner and everything. I love both these ladies. They're both just the best, and real boons for the women's MMA divisions because they're hurting right now. So this is a fight that women's MMA needs.
Side note, before we get to the next fight, if Valentina does lose the title, do you think she'll go up in bantamweight and at least try to make a run there before her career is over?
She could. I think she can do whatever she wants, but she is damn near 40 years old. So
right.
Maybe just time to call it before you start losing a lot, because that will happen eventually. I know she's still great, but
yeah,
I think it's at a certain point for her, it's dependent on matchups. There's fun fights for her maybe, but maybe not the highest level fights. So
yeah, and those 2 ladies at bantamweight that are fighting right now.
I wouldn't want to see her against Amanda Nunes. I mean, I guess it depends what Amanda looks like when she comes back, but I don't want to see her against Kayla Harrison. That's a
tough matchup. That's tough. Yeah.
Tough. Yeah. All right. Moving on to our main event, second super fight of the night here. Jack Della Madalena, JDM versus Islam Makachev.
Makachev is 27-1, 5 KOs, 13 subs, 9 decision. He was the UFC lightweight champion with 4 successful title defenses. He did not lose that title. He's vacated to move up to this. He had oh gosh, there's so many freaking stats I have here, but we'll just go fight of the night 3 times, performance of the night 3 times. He's a beast, and I've seen recent things with DC. Basically, I didn't get to see how Islam looked. I kind of got to see a little bit, but DC was super impressed with how Makachev just looks at welterweight. I have a feeling he's going to be a super. I know DC
is the biggest homer of all time for those boys. So I don't take anything he says.
I get it. Right. All right. Fair enough.
I love DC, but he loves those Dagestani guys a little too much for me.
Right. So it's hard to say he's impartial, I guess is what we're saying. Right.
Exactly.
JDM, though, he's 18-2, 12 KOs, 2 subs, 4 decisions, and he's the current welterweight champion. And I just want to point out, because I love these stats, his only 2 losses are the very first 2 of his career. He's not lost since then. This guy's mentally as strong as you can be. He's not intimidated whether your name is Magomedov or Makachev. He does not care. He's not intimidated by your grappling. He's confident in his abilities, and he has a right to be. Much like you had a feeling, though, about Weili earlier, I have the same feeling about Makachev here. I just feel like he's going to be a beast. He's going to win this. I think at some point we're looking at Makachev and Ilya whenever he moves up to welterweight, and it's just going to be this crazy super fight where these two have dominated the sport for the last several years. But JDM could prove us all wrong this Saturday, and I wouldn't even be mad at it. I really like JDM. But I don't know. My gut just tells me go with Islam. And it's going to be a high-level fight. I'll say he'll get the finish in round 3. TKO, ground and pound.
Islam's going to TKO, you think?
I think he's going to ground and pound him, round 3.
Yeah, lots of questions. Like, obviously, is Islam big enough for a true welterweight? JDM is a true welterweight. He's a large fella. Obviously on the feet, JDM has a huge advantage. He has some of the best boxing in the UFC. His hands are fantastic. But will Islam strike with him, or is he going to try to stay safe with just the grappling? We know Islam can be knocked out. He has been hit before and stunned. JDM hits very hard, but Islam's going to grapple. So I know he's going to get some takedowns. I also think, though, and this is important, that Jack's going to be able to stand up sometimes. And that's a thing that does not happen against these guys in Khabib's camp. Guys do not get up.
Right.
Unless, unless they're letting him up to just sweep him again to take him down. I think Jack's going to get to the cage and he's going to be able to get up. He dominated Belal, who is similar to Islam, probably less skilled in every aspect of MMA, but he's larger. So, Jack was able to. He dominated Belal. It wasn't even close. So,
right.
Also, JDM has Craig Jones and Volkanovski in his camp. Volkanovski obviously has fought Islam before. Craig Jones known for having the key to unlocking the Dagestani wrestling, so I'm sure he's going to have a few tricks up his sleeve.
You're winning me over here.
Yeah, so I'm leaning towards JDM. So I think his boxing's great. I think he could actually KO Islam. So I'm going to say round 2 KO. The longer it goes, the more takedowns that Islam will get.
Yeah.
But it's with, like you said, JDM's confidence that he has, and he does not seem worried about the wrestling. He doesn't seem worried about the aura of Khabib's camp and anything. Right. Fully calm and confident, and he's kind of won me over with that. Again, so round 2 KO for JDM. I would not be upset if Islam won. I like him, and I think it's a great story for him to move up and get a second belt and kind of move out of Khabib's shadow a little bit. But I'm a big Jack fan as well. And I think that he could be champ for a little bit.
So do you think, though, going later in the fight, actually, it'll be tougher for JDM, though? You think that favors Islam, or do you think that
if there's a lot of grappling and he's on his back and he gets down on the cards, I think it'll be tougher for him, because then Islam can engage even less. But if it's a close fight and it's going longer and Jack keeps getting up and Islam keeps having to take him down, that could be rough on his cardio. So
that's kind of what I was actually thinking. Like, I think Islam's going to show up really strong, and I think he's going to be able to get him out of there in the first 2 rounds. But it's funny, as the fight goes later, I just have this feeling with Islam's because it is his new weight class, and JDM's fought this is his weight class. I feel like as we go into rounds 4 and 5, that is where JDM I saw could possibly win this.
Right, but, Islam carrying more weight than he's used to. Yeah.
But you also make very arguable, great points that I didn't consider too, with Volk being in his camp and Volk having to pay the price and knowing what to look for, and then like you said, Craig Jones too. So it'll be an interesting fight. This is going to be. I don't know, because it's so high level. I don't want to tell you it's going to be like an all-time exciting fight, but like as far as high-level MMA goes, this is potentially the highest caliber all year, like in terms of that. Like,
yeah, I think this card has potential to be best card of the year for sure.
These two fight, the two main event and co-main event in particular, though, like they are two super fights that we're getting, and we're getting it with people. In the case of Valentina, who cleared out basically that division, all time, and Weili, who basically was the dominant force in that division, moving up. And Islam, same thing. He cleared out his division basically, and he's moving. Well,
there's a lot of guys for him to fight at lightweight. So if he does lose, his career's not done. He goes back down. There's still a lot of guys.
It wasn't there when he left. That's all I'm saying. Lightweight is an all-time division too.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of guys in that one.
Islam made a great, great.
A lot of old guys that were big names, but yeah, Islam's great. I don't want to diminish him for what he's done. He's been great, but there are still fights for him at lightweight if he loses this.
All right. Well, that being said, this is going to be a great weekend for fights. Looking forward to it. One of the final pay-per-views ever in MSG for the UFC, at least for the immediate future. So let's store a card. Super excited. Before we get to the end of the show, why don't you tell people what we got coming up one more time?
All right, November 22nd, UFC Fight Night, Sarukian versus Hooker. That Sarukian or Dan Hooker fight would be great for Islam. Yeah. And then November 29th, we'll be reviewing the fight night, the Sarukian and Hooker fight night. And then December 6th, UFC 323, Dvalishvili versus Yan 2. This is like 4 title defenses for Merab in a year or something like that. He's a monster. He's a machine.
Love Merab here. All right, guys. But the big story, UFC 322 this weekend. Check it out and check us out. We'll be here next week to talk all about it. Thank you for tuning in. Please